Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to Dragalia Lost. In today's video, I'm going to review most of the stuff from the new win banner. I'm not going to cover everything in depth because it'll honestly take me forever to get this video out if I do that. So instead, I'll review everything that's worth reviewing and I'll summarize everything else at the very end. And if you summoned already, then let me know who you got in the comments. It's always fun to see how lucky some of you guys can be. But before we start, I want to say thank you to Amino for sponsoring this video. Amino is a social app. Think of it like a big forum, except it contains many sub-forums called Aminos, and each has its own little space. Since you guys like Dragalia Lost, well, once you make an account and log in, go search up Dragalia Lost in the search bar at the top, and you can find the Dragalia Lost Amino. After that, look around and you'll find out that there's a bunch of things you can do in here. First, if you need any advice, memes, or just people to co-op with, then head over to the Let's Chat tab and talk to everybody there. It's a global chat. Under the 5-star tab, there's a plentiful amount of interesting threads posted daily. This is where I spend most of my time reading about all the newest updates to Dragalia Lost, and I also enjoy seeing people's fan art. You can also create polls, so if you aren't sure of which character to train up next, just make a poll and these wonderful Amino boys can help you out. I have an account on here, so if you want to keep updated with what I post, then make sure to follow me on Amino and remember to post my profile and just say hi. My username is Brotel and all the download links will be in the description below. Take a few minutes, download the app, and check it out. Alright, the featured 5-star unit of this banner is Louise. She's our 4th wind bow unit, and she's not bad. She has 805 max HP, which is a lot. She's ranked 5th in that. Her strength is 470, which is average, although it is way lower than Hawk's and a tad bit lower than Eleonora's. Even though that's the case, I believe she still does more damage than Hawk in the long run because of her skills. Louise has 2 damage skills opposed to Hawk, who only has 1. Also, Hawk's only damage skill needs to be set up for increased damage, which can be annoying to do because it requires Hawk to use 4 strikes, which honestly is probably the most underwhelming part about a bow unit's kit. Basically, Hawk has to stun first with Hunter's Creed, only then Savage Hawk will deal great damage. But here's another thing, both of his skills have SP cost in the 5,000 range, so it's going to take a while for him to build up SP. On the other hand, Louise's skills cost 2,896 and the second one is roughly 5,000. Her first skill deals some damage and poisons without fail, then the second skill deals extra damage on poison enemies, so the skills are going to flow very well. It's not as clunky as Hawk's. So in terms of damage, I do think Louise is better than Hawk, but how about Eleonora? I think Eleonora's kit is more similar to Louise than Hawk's. Just like Louise, Eleonora has 2 damage skills with medium animation times and they both inflict poison as well. They both also have bog resistance 100% as an ability, which Hawk doesn't have, so these 2 gals can be used for the same type of event. Where the similarities start to separate is when you take a look at their other abilities. Louise has Overdrive Punisher and Strength Double Buff. She's the only 5-star unit with Overdrive Punisher so far. There are a few 4-stars with it, but because Louise is a 5-star unit, her Overdrive Punisher starts out at 10% and it can be leveled up one more time to reach 13%, whereas the 4-star units are stuck with 8%. If you're one of those guys who typically dragons after the break, then Overdrive Punisher is going to fit your style. Her other ability is Strength Double Buff, which is solid. It's pretty good if you can utilize it, which wind units can. They have Aileen, who is a great support. I would highly recommend her if you're looking for a solid wind melee unit. Then there's a new guy, Lowen, who is an incredible healer with a defense buff, and I'll review him next, so stay tuned for that. Overall, Louise I think is a solid DPS win unit if you can get over the fact that she uses a bow. However, I don't think there's much incentive to summon for her. There's a good handful of win units that can fill her role already, some of them being 5-stars and a couple 4-stars like Eleonora for example. Now let's review Lowen. I think this guy is the star of the banner. He's the second win healer in the game, the first being 3-star Sophie, who I'm not even going to compare with Lowen because the difference is like night and day. It's not even close. Stats I'm going to ignore for the most part because it's kind of irrelevant. He does have good HP at 783, which is great. Good survivability. His strength is kind of like whatever. His skills is where it's at. He has an AoE heal that removes bog. It's similar to Verica's except that it removes bog instead of stun. This means that Lowen is going to be a great unit to use against Mercury and maybe even high Mercury in the future. His second skill increases the team's defense by 20%. It's not the highest defense buff that I've seen, but it's pretty decent for a 4-star unit. In addition, it increases each unit's max HP by 10% for the remainder of the whole quest, so this will increase your team's overall survivability. Then the third effect says once HP buffs reach the limit, and HP recovery effect is granted instead. That's really awesome because it won't become a useless skill after its initial use. It's gonna act as a second healing skill, although it does have an enormous SP cost at 11,449. For abilities, he has skill prep 75%. It's one of, if not the best ability for a healer. It's especially good on him considering that his second skill has such a high SP cost. Then his second ability is Bogger Resistance 100%. He's the only wind staff unit that has it so far, therefore he might be essential for future high mercury dragon trials. Overall, I think Lowen is amazing. His skill set focuses on one thing, which is healing and increasing the team's longevity. He's not like most healers that have like split healing and DPS. Instead, this guy's a one-trick pony and he does his job well. Definitely try to get your hands on it. Now let's briefly talk about Garuda, who is the focused 5-star dragon. Stats aren't really that important, but she's basically a defensive version of Zephyr stat-wise, lower strength but more HP. Her skill deals wind damage and restores the user's HP. Keep in mind that it only restores the user's HP and not the team's. And her ability is HP plus 60% if attuned to a wind user. So far she grants the most HP out of all the wind dragons. Strideball grants 45%, High Midgard and Sylvia grants 30%, and Normal Midgard grants 10%. Currently, HP focus abilities aren't that useful compared to strength oriented ones. The only type of units that should utilize these HP focused dragons are healers, so if you have a trained up Sophie, or if you just got Lowen, then Garuda would be a good dragon for those guys. Even then, I wouldn't recommend going out of your way to try and summon Garuda. I think Sylvia, who we just got during the last event for free, is good enough. You don't necessarily need to have that 60% HP bonus because it's a bit much and it's overkill. You'll be fine without it, but if you happen to get her, then great. Rock is not a new dragon, but we have a higher chance to summon her on this banner. She grants up to 45% strength to a wind user, which ranks her second in terms of an offensive dragon, the first being Zephyr of course. If you lack an offensive wind dragon, then Rock is a pretty good one to summon for. As for worm prints, I think there's only two worth looking into, the first being Gale of Beauty. This worm print grants Broken Punisher and Dragon Time. So what you can do with this worm print is give it to somebody with innate Broken Punisher to stack effects. When you get a boss into overdrive mode, you can turn into a dragon to try and break it. You will have 8 to 10% dragon time, so that's going to help for that situation. Then when you finally break the boss, you will probably lose dragon mode at that point, and that's when Broken Punisher comes into play. I think this worm print has nice synergy and I like the flow of the effect. The second print is Fresh Perspective. I think this might be the best print out of the 5. It grants 4 strike 30%, which is 10% lower than Night Stalker, but the addition of skill damage 15% I think is far more valuable. There is that other 4-star print that grants 30% 4 strike with crit damage, but I think most axe users benefit from skill damage more so than crit damage. As for the other 3 worm prints, Garuda Feather is trash. It's only useful for the wind whistle grass effect. Use it until the event is over, then sell it afterwards. Gentle Winds has skill prep 25%. Healers will like that, but they don't really benefit from the strength effect. I don't even like this effect on damage dealers because I'm not too fond of these effects that requires the user to be at full HP because it won't work 100% of the time. Sisters of the Anvil is not new, but it's rated up. It's an okay print for guys that have defense buffs such as Naveed, Aileen, Ryozan, and some other dudes, but there's still better worm print options out there. Pietro is new, but he's a 3-star. In my personal opinion, I don't think 3 stars are ever worth the investment because they aren't efficient. Their abilities are always gimped and that just makes them not usable for some stages, especially the higher scale events. Don't get me wrong, I do understand that there's a good handful of 3 stars that can even out damage 4 stars and some 5 stars, but the fact that they have gimped abilities just makes them underwhelming. But that's just my 2 cents. And that's everything on this banner, so the question is this banner worth summoning from? Probably not. It does contain a few gems in Lowen, Rock, and the Fresh Perspective print. Louise is pretty good, I wouldn't mind if I got her, but she's not a must-have type of unit. I mean, the decision is entirely up to you. It depends how much you need any of this, but considering that most of the focus 5 stars in this banner aren't worth it, really devalues the banner as a whole, which is why I recommend skipping. And that's going to be it for this video, and as always, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, I would highly appreciate it, and subscribe if you want to see more Dragalia Lost content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.